On the 14th of August, 1853, I drove the night cart out of the French Quarter with 7 coffins in the bed and a yellow fever count painted on the side. One of them sat up when the cart stopped at the corner of Royal and St. Anne. He said my mother's name in my mother's voice. My mother had been dead 20 years. You ask anybody who lived through that summer in New Orleans what they remember, they will not say the dying. They will say the smell. Camphor in the gutters, tar burning at the corners, quicklime on the doorsteps, vinegar in handkerchiefs pressed to the mouth, and under all of it the other smell, the one a coffin maker does not unlearn. I am Beauregard Tessier, Beau to anyone who paid me. 38 that August, 3rd generation French-Creole. My grandfather built coffins in this same shop on Rue St. Philip, a block from the Ursuline convent. My father after him, me after my father. Cypress boards, pegged corners, hand-planed lids. The cypress comes down out of the back swamp in cartloads. It does not rot in the wet ground. The Anglos uptown used pine. They were burying so fast they did not care. My shop had a counting rule older than the city. Count when you load. Count when you unload. Never count twice in between. My grandfather wrote it on the inside of the shop door in copper plate. You did not ask my grandfather why. You learned the rule, and the rule kept you. My apprentice was a boy named Henri, 16, from Faubourg Marigny. Lost both parents the second week of August. He slept in the back room behind the planing bench. He could pull a peg line straight on his first try, which I had not seen since my father. And the priest, Father Boudreau from St. Mary's Chapel. He came down at sundown each evening that August and blessed the night's load, stood at the back of the cart and made the sign 3 times slow. He was 41 and looked 60 by August. He blessed the load on the 14th the way he blessed every other. Then he touched the side rail and stepped back into the doorway and watched me snap the reins. The 14th of August, 1853, a Sunday. The city had buried 230 the day before. My cart went out at 11 that night with 7 coffins in the bed and a number painted on the side rail in white lead, the way the parish required. The number was the running count for the week. I had stopped looking at it. The streets at midnight were not empty. The ones who had not gone upriver sat on stoops in Faubourg tram with handkerchiefs to their faces and watched the cart pass. Nobody crossed themselves. They had used up all the crossings. I had the bell on the cart, the night cart bell, brass on a leather strap above the driver's bench. You rang it slow at every corner so the houses knew you were coming. The horse was an old gray mare named Celeste. She was used to the bell and the smell of the bed. 6 sacks of quicklime under the coffin bed boards against the contagion. They left a white dust on the floor that did not wash off. The 4th coffin from the back was Madame Thériault, 52, widow of a Creole pharmacist on Rue Bourbon. I had measured her myself at 3 in the afternoon in the front room of her house on Rue Dauphine. The fever had turned her the color of old paper, mouth slightly open. The doctor had bled her 3 lancet cuts in the crook of the left arm. He had given her calomel and quinine and water. None of it took. I sealed her at sunset. Cypress lid pegged at the corners, gummed paper at the lid seams. You wet the paper strip and pressed it down along the joint, and it dried to a hard skin. The seal was supposed to keep the miasma in. I did not believe that. Hers was sealed clean. I checked it myself. Henri watched me do it. I let him do the long edge on the right side. He did it straight. The cart stopped at the corner of Royal and St. Anne at 12 minutes past midnight by the convent clock. Celeste stopped on her own. I had not pulled the reins. Her ears were forward and her head was low. I did not hear anything yet. Then the lid of the fourth coffin lifted from inside. Slow. The gummed paper at the seam came up in one long peel. She sat up in the box. The cypress lid slid sideways and stopped against the rail of the cart. The body that had been Madame Thériault came upright at the waist, the way a child does when something has woken it. The yellow skin, the slightly open mouth. The hair I had tied back with a black ribbon at 5 that afternoon, still tied back. The eyes still closed. I was facing forward on the driver's bench. I did not turn. I saw her in the edge of my sight. Celeste did not move. And then the voice. Beauregard, mon petit chou. It was my mother's voice. Not a voice like my mother's. My mother's. The exact pitch, the faint catch she had in the throat from the cigarettes she rolled with mauve papers she bought from a Spanish woman on Rue Conti, the way she lengthened the O in my name when she was tired but not yet annoyed. Beauregard. My mother had been dead 20 years, yellow fever, the 33 season. I was 18 when I held her hand in the back room of this same shop and watched her go. I knew the voice. I did not turn around. My grandfather's rule was older than the city. You do not look at the face, you do not answer, you drive on. I clucked at Celeste. She did not move. I clucked again. The thing in the cart said my name again. Beauregard. It is your maman. Look at me, mon petit chou. Then it began to know things. It said the name of my first horse, Petit Jean, a bay gelding my father bought for me when I was 10. Petit Jean had died in 27 of colic in the alley behind the shop. I had not said the horse's name aloud since the afternoon we buried him. My mother had been there. The thing in the cart said, Petit Jean was a sweet little horse, Beau. You remember how he would not take the bit from anyone but you. In my mother's voice, with my mother's catch in the throat, it said what was buried with my father, a brass St. Christopher medal on a leather thong. I had put it inside the coffin under the lining the night before we buried him in 46. Nobody else had seen me do it. The thing said, your papa is still wearing his St. Christopher bow. He says he's proud of you. I had not told anyone. Not Father Boudreau. Not Henri. Not the priest who buried him. Not my own wife before she left. It sang, the song my mother sang to me when I had the croup as a boy. Fais dodo, mon petit beau, fais dodo. The two notes she always missed, the click of the tongue at the end of the second line because she could never remember the next word, from the back of the cart, in her exact voice. I sat on the bench and I did not turn around and I did not answer, and I knew that whatever was sitting up in the fourth coffin was not Madame Theriot and was not my mother. It was wearing the voice the way it was wearing the body. Both borrowed, both fit wrong. My grandfather taught me the rule when I was 12. We were in the back room of the shop with a coffin on the bench between us. He looked at me across the box, and he said it once, in French, the way you say a thing that you do not want to repeat. When the dead sit up and use the voice of somebody who loved you, you do not answer. You do not look at the eyes. You drive on. You finish the route. You unload. You burn your coat. He said it once. He did not say it again. He told me his father had used the rule on a cart route in '96, the year of a bad fever season. He did not tell me what had sat up that night. I did not ask. I did all four. I clucked at Celeste a third time, and she stepped forward slow, like she had decided on her own to put distance between her and whatever was behind her. The thing in the fourth coffin said my mother's pet name for me 3 more times as we went down Rue Sainte-Anne toward Rampart. Mon petit chou, mon petit chou, mon petit chou, look at me. Each time fainter. By Claiborne it was breaths without words. By the time I reached the gates of Cypress Grove Cemetery on the back swamp road, the cart behind me was quiet. The cemetery gates were piled with coffins 5 deep on either side. The pit crew worked all night under torches. I unloaded my 7 onto the count board 1 at a time. Count when you load, count when you unload. I had loaded 7 at the shop. I unloaded 1, 2, 3. Madame Theriot's was the 4th. The lid was back in place. The gummed paper was back along the seam, smooth, dry, as if I had sealed it an hour before. 4, 5, 6. The pit crew foreman, a freedman named Augustin, who had been doing the gate count since June, looked at my cart bed and then at me. He said, "Tessier, it is 6. I looked. The 7th coffin was gone. It had been the closest to the driver's bench. I would have heard it slide off. I had not heard anything. The lime in the cart bed had a wet handprint on it, a right hand, palm and 5 fingers, pressed down into the white dust the way you steady yourself before you climb down. I drove home, empty at 4 in the morning. I did not look in the cart bed again. I unhitched Celeste in the alley. I took off my coat and the shirt under it and put both in the cook stove and lit them with a kitchen match. The wool burned slow. Henri came down the back stairs in his nightshirt and watched me without asking. He had buried his own family that month, and he knew when not to ask. I closed the shop in February of '54. I sold the building to a German cabinet maker. I moved upriver to Plaquemines Parish and worked as a wheelwright for a sugar plantation for 18 years. Henri came with me, then went back to New Orleans. I never told him what was in the cart that night. He never asked. I still drive a cart sometimes, only in daylight, only with no coffins in the bed. I am 68 years old as I write this in 1903. I am writing in the parish ledger because somebody 50 years from tonight will read it and need to know. One of the 7 coffins I loaded on the night of the 14th of August, 1853, was not a coffin. Whatever sat up in it climbed down out of my cart between Royal and St. Anne and Cypress Grove and walked into the city on its own feet, wearing a dead woman's body and my mother's voice. It knew the name of my horse. It knew about the St. Christopher. It knew the song. It is still in this city. It has been here 50 years, and it knows things only the dead and the ones who loved them should know. If you are out at night and the voice of somebody who loved you speaks to you from a place that voice should not be, you do not answer. You do not look at the eyes. You drive on. You finish your route. You unload. Oh, and you burn your coat.
Sorrow,